G'day everyone, it's Patrick the CADASIL vlog bloke here again, and today I want to talk about matters of the brain, indeed grey matter and white matter. Now grey matter is the bit that surrounds the surface of the brain and goes down a bit beneath it. Grey matter can be anywhere in thickness from 1 to 4.5 millimeters in depth and averages about 2.5 millimeters all round. And below that is the white matter, and white matter comprises about 60% of the brain by volume, meaning of course that the grey matter makes up 40%, and you might think that's a bit incredulous given how thin the grey matter is, but remember the outside of the brain is full of folds and whorls and crenulations, so the surface matter is quite big. Now the grey matter does actually contain some nerves which do not have myelin, and that's the way they are designed, and they're quite slow nerves, so there's nothing wrong with those ones, that's the way they're meant to be. But the white matter is filled with bundles of neurons that generally, when they're healthy, are covered in a protective sheath called myelin. And myelin not only protects the nerve fibers in the white matter, but also helps the impulses to go quite fast. And the way that they do that is because myelin has gaps, so it has segments along the length of the nerve, and those gaps enable the nerve impulse to travel much faster than it could otherwise. Some of those unmyelinated nerves in the grey matter are quite slow. They can be as slow as 0.7 or a metre per second in speed, but some of the nerves in white matter, due to the myelation, can be much faster. Indeed, some of them can be up to 70 to 120 metres per second, which is really incredibly fast. Now, the problem in CADASIL and other cerebral small vessel diseases is that the myelin can break down, can degrade, and in some cases disappear altogether. And that can actually affect the speed of those nerves by a factor of 100. So those nerves that would normally have a processing speed of 120 meters per second drop down to 1.2 meters per second. Quite significant. Now, every brain in every person in the world has white matter, but not every person in the world has white matter disease, which is what happens when the myelin degrades. Now, what causes the myelin to degrade? Well, it's hypoperfusion, which means that not enough blood gets through the arteries in the white matter, and consequently not enough oxygen comes through to constantly keep the myelin healthy. That is caused by the arteriopathy of CADASIL, so the narrowing and the thickening of the arteries. That alone is enough to cause myelin damage, but on top of that there are micro strokes happening in that section of the brain, because the white matter is below the cortex, hence the subcortical bit in the acronym CADASIL. Now, not the entire nerve cell is covered by myelin. It's the axon only, which is the bit between the head and the tail of the neuron that is covered by myelin.